We shop at the big chain grocery stores because we are told it's affordable. We fill our carts with the bulk deals, thinking that we're saving money. But biology reveals a trap. These processed foods destroy our fullness signals, leaving us starving 2 hours later. We end up buying more just to fill the void, right? We don't want to be hungry. That feels horrible. We assume the local butcher is a luxury we can't afford, but the truth is, it's the opposite. The butcher holds the most powerful fuel for our metabolism, the ordinary, untrimmed cuts. At the grocery store, we pay a premium to have the most nutritious parts, the fatty ends, and structure sliced away. The butcher, he leaves that energy intact. But in order to get that, we have to know exactly what to ask for because the butcher is used to people coming and asking for the same cuts as the grocery store. There's a simple shift in how we order that keeps the nutrition on the plate and the money in the wallet. I want you to think of your body like your forever home. For years, modern food systems has been tricking us into using cheap materials to maintain it. Eating processed, affordable food is like trying to repair your house with cardboard and masking tape. It looks okay for a few hours, but as soon as the wind blows, the walls start to shake. You aren't hungry because you lack space in your stomach. You're hungry because your house is literally falling apart and needs real materials to stay standing. I'm not a doctor, a nutritionist, or a financial advisor for that matter. This video shares my personal experiences with metabolic health and budgeting. Always consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your diet and do your own research regarding food sourcing. Please subscribe. I didn't find this answer because I was analyzing a spreadsheet. I found it by accident during a routine that Pat and I have. Every other week, we set aside time for a date weekend. So it had a rhythm to it. On Friday nights, we would go to our restaurant and have a carnivore meal. On Saturday, we go see a movie. And then on Sunday, we would have another carnivore meal. But this time we would go and buy meat from the butcher shop to get the nice cuts and etc. Now, we enjoy both of those meals, the Friday meal and the Sunday meal. But that Sunday meal and a live stream I did for you guys more recently where I talked about the price of the stuff at the butcher shop got me to actually stop and look at my grocery bill in total, right? Pat and I have been carnivore. It's going on 2 years in April 2026. So it started to make me wonder if the math that I was doing by shopping at Costco or regular grocery stores was worth it. Now, what I realized was that our Friday restaurant meal, where we were paying the premium of having someone cook the food and service the food and right, and in reality, it's a cheaper quality meat because it's pork shoulder, right, rather than it being even the pork chop or right. So that meal, which is at the minimum, we know that there's no seed oils in it because they're cooking it on a spit and they've told us that they're not adding any oil to that. We eliminated the lemon oil that normally goes on it, which would have been a seed oil. But we don't control the fact that there are spices on it, where at home we don't cook with spices. That meal was delicious and we still enjoy it. But compared to the cost of the butcher shop meal, when we looked at the receipt when I looked at the receipt from the butcher shop, because Pat usually pays for these things and I really wasn't paying attention, the Sunday meal was a fraction of the cost. Actually, it was about half. And yet we were getting a much better quality of meat and much more to eat. Well, no, I can't say that. It was about the same. The difference, I'm assuming, is that we weren't paying for the overhead of the service. But I will add to this that on the Sunday meal, Pat was actually getting a huge steak. And there's no additives because we only put salt and Pat puts a little black pepper. And that's all that's going on our food. We're just paying for the fuel. So back to our analogy, it's like if we were hiring an expensive interior designer to, keep up our house, and they made the house look beautiful and served us fancy drinks while they're doing it, but they didn't fix their leaky roof and they didn't do anything with the cracking foundation. We just paid for the look of the meal, not the quality. Whereas the butcher was like, if we went to a lumberyard and there's no fancy decorations there, but we bought the right kind of wood to fix the roof and the right kind of material to fix the roof, and we also got the heavy stones and whatever we needed to fix the foundation, and we know that that's going to last a lifetime. We've been conditioned to look for clean meat, right? Like all the fat taken off of it, all the connective, like it doesn't have any white bits, no bone. We want it deboned. We've been conditioned to believe that muscle meat all by itself is the healthiest thing for us to eat. But for our physiology, just the muscle meat alone, no connective, like nothing else, that's a little bit incomplete for what our body is trying to do. Our body is trying to rebuild us, and it needs more than that. Muscle meat is very high in an amino acid called methionine, which we need. But even though methionine is essential, too much of it without balance acts like an engine running hot without a coolant. So what's the coolant? In this case, the coolant for our bodies is glycine. So glycine is found in the exact part that the grocery store trims away. The butcher will trim it away too if you want them to, but you can get it left on. The connective tissue and the silver skin and the fascia and like these things have glycine in them. When we eat these structural and untrimmed chops from the butcher, we're consuming the muscle and the glycine-rich structures that hold it together, and that's what allows our body to utilize the protein for repair without creating metabolic stress. We don't want metabolic stress. That's bad for us. So the muscle meat is actually more like the bricks, and then the connective tissue and the fat and all that stuff would be kind of like the mortar that goes between like the mortar is there to hold those bricks steady and in place, right? The bricks provide the strength, and mortar is kind of like the glue of that structure. The grocery store sells you a pile of perfect bricks, but throws the mortar in the trash, right? And if your contractor came to put brick up your wall, like make you a nice wall on the outside of your house, and he just put the bricks there and just walked away and he didn't mortar them to the house, you'd be like, what the hell are you doing, dude? We need to understand that our body needs that glycine to make all of this stuff work together. That's the way that we're going to build walls in our body that never crack. Now, there's another difference that I noticed with the meat from the grocery store versus the meat from the butcher. It wasn't something that you could see. It was more of a smell thing. At a typical grocery store, even the big ones like Walmart or Provigo or like the gigantic stores, the meat often carries the strong, distinct odor. Biologically, that smell isn't just meat. It's a sign that the histamines have started to build up. So histamines can cause us to have reactions to what we're eating. So a lot of people talk about having reactions to beef, but yet they eat aged beef. And so therefore, it's a sign of oxidation, which means that the fats are degrading and the protein is aging poorly. At the butcher shop, the meat had almost no smell. It was weird. Like chicken and turkey I bought at the butcher shop had almost no smell. It was weird. But it's because it was fresh. And like, it's funny because Pat and I had been buying meat from the butcher shop for our dates for so long. And I don't realize why I didn't notice it until I bought chicken. So when I decided to buy more and see what it would be like, and I opened the chicken and there was no smell. And it clicked in my head. And then I went to the meat that I had bought, so the pork that I had purchased, and I opened that and there was no smell. And it kind of hit me like, whoa, wait a minute. I'd not noticed that it had no smell. we realized that by shopping at the grocery store, we weren't just getting less nutrition, we were buying meat that was already chemically degrading. It was rotting. It was like it was so again, if you were trying to build your house and the wood arrived smelling like mold and rot, you'd send it back immediately. You wouldn't be like washing it in the sink and like putting vinegar on it or lemon on it and whatever. And like, you wouldn't bring that into your home and build with it. Now we know that the butcher is providing materials that are fresh and don't smell, and they're perfect, and they're going to contribute to the building of us in a good way, right? They're not creating more cracks in the foundation. It's creating a healthy version of us. Now, the other thing is the fat. In the restaurant meal and even at the at the grocery store, the natural fat is taken off or it's rendered away, and oftentimes it's replaced with inflammatory vegetable oil. So in the restaurant, they will take off that perfectly good fat and then use vegetable oil to cook with. The animal fat on the butcher's cut is stable energy. It provides the specific fatty acids the brain monitors to signal satiety. By keeping the fat on the pork chop or the steak or the chicken or the fish, we are giving the body its preferred fuel source alongside the building blocks. And I'm going to guess right now that for a lot of you, the thought that's running through your head right now is, we cannot afford that. And I honestly didn't think that we would be able to afford it either. So I'm right there with you. But here's the thing. That restaurant meal that Pat and I do every Friday, every other Friday, I took a look at the bill. I don't normally look at it. He takes me out, right? But like took a look at the bill. $92. $92 to go to the restaurant. And it's a delicious meal. It's pork, a platter of pork that the two of us share, and a platter of calamari that the two of us share. Yeah, by the time we leave there, we are completely satiated. There's no problem. Oh yeah, and there's a bottle of bubbly water. That is what we eat in that restaurant meal. $92. Versus our Sunday meal, which is Pat getting a nice steak, about a pound or so, sometimes a little bit more. Myself getting a pound of pork chops, sometimes a little bit more. And it costs us about 41, let's say on the high side, $45 on the high side. If Pat gets a bigger steak, could be $45. So about half of what we spend at the restaurant. Now, we're not getting pampered. We are going home and we're cooking this ourselves. However, we both like our meat fried in butter, so that's what we do. I like salt on mine. Pat likes salt and a bit of black pepper. That's what we do. On those days, because we're having that large amount of meat, because a lot of times it's more than the pound, I will say like most of the time it's more than the pound. On those days, we typically do not have eggs. $41 for that meal. But the real shock came when I compared the butcher shop run to the grocery store run. I used to buy about 7 meals from the grocery store when I would go. So we'll use Walmart as the example. 3 meals of ground pork, a pound each. 2 chicken meals, like 2 whole drumsticks, and they were big, good size. And 2 meals of pork chops, again, a pound each. And each of those meals got 4 eggs with them. And that cost me $62.88. That's about $9 per meal for meat that doesn't smell good, right? So it's failing the smell test. Then I did a bulk haul at the butcher. I spent $114.31, much more than I spent at Walmart. But that $114 bought 22 meals. That broke down into $5.20 per meal, being a pound of meat each meal. And if it was chicken, it was 4 chicken thighs. And I believe I got 5 meals of chicken thighs, 4 each. $5.20 per meal. Now, there's no eggs included in that. So if I wanted to add eggs, that goes up a bit. But by leaving the grocery store, we dropped our cost per meal by almost 45%. And the reason I'm not telling you the eggs in there is because we actually changed the way that we're eating recently. And I'm going to make another video about the iodine improvements that we've made to the way that we're eating so that we can make sure that we're getting all the iodine. So for right now, even if I added 4 eggs to this, the price is not going up by $4, right? We were able to get the cost per meal down 45% by upgrading to meat that actually is fresher, right? Because it doesn't smell, and it's biologically complete because we take the cuts that allow us to keep. So for example, at the butcher shop, you can spend more on pork chops, but they removed, so the French cut pork chops have that little tip removed, so all the fat and that nice end. So you're paying more for them to take off the healthy part. It blows my mind now that I understand that. I always like the fatty part because it tastes better, and I always take that cut, but it blows my mind to really realize that I was accidentally making a better choice. And again, all the different cuts there where you can get them with the connective tissue and the fat still there, or if you're coming from that world of eat less, move more, fat's the devil, you can get with the things, you can get your meat with the fat and connective tissue cut off. Now, one of the problems that I see a lot of people having is that some of the cuts that we're encouraged to eat, so if you're in this low carb carnivore world that we are in, some of the cuts that we're encouraged to eat are harder to cook, right? Because of that connective tissue still being there. But Wellness Warrior, I'll tell you that it is worth it to take the time to learn how to slowly cook these meats so that you can have a delicious tasting meal and get that collagen or like whatever connective tissue and the fat in your body because it's so healthy for you. So if you treat your butcher bought meat like it's processed grocery store meat, you might have a little bit of trouble cooking it because some parts of it might not feel as tender because again, the butcher has left some of that stuff on there for you, right? That fat cap is there and it's delicious. You might need to cook it a little longer. You need to respect the structure of the meat and don't just try to flash fry it and expect it to be like the mushy tenderized stuff that you can get at the grocery store. They tenderize the heck out of that stuff. And the problem is that by putting all those holes, they've allowed air to get in. And by allowing air to get in, more degrading is happening to that meat before you can get it home and cook it. And then sometimes people don't even cook it. So you're talking about beef that was tenderized. They don't even cook it enough to kill the bacteria and people get sick. We have to cook it in a way that renders the fat and softens the glycine. And when we do, it becomes the best meal you've ever had. Honestly, grocery store meat is like flat pack furniture. It's soft and flimsy and anyone can put it together in 5 minutes, but it breaks just as fast. You want that butcher shop meat that is solid like a slab of mahogany. It's tough, right? You can't just throw it together. You need to have a craftsman come in and put that piece of furniture together for you. You need, or even better, you need to learn how to work that piece of meat, understand the grain. It takes a bit more time to build that meal, but the result is an heirloom that nourishes you for days, not just hours. We're so used to thinking of food as just another expense, right? Oh, I got to do groceries. I got to get, right? Like gas or rent. And we try to minimize it. And I'm really encouraging you, think of this over, right? When we buy that $5.20 butcher meal, we aren't just saving money, although we did save money. We're buying the glycine that will help repair our joints, right? My joints needed repair. We are buying the suet, so the fat that's going to fuel our brain and our body, by the way, because everything can be fueled by the fat. And by the way, the fat builds us, right? The fat builds us. We are buying the absence of inflammation because it's not decaying before we even get it to our home. The butcher shop meals that you buy when you do your grocery shopping at the butcher $5.20 per meal investment versus, so that's $10.20 if both Pat and I have pork chops, compared to that restaurant meal that was costing us. So $10.40 versus $92. Now, if we have our normal, again, we can still compare. If we have our normal, he has steak and I have pork chop, it's still $41-ish versus 92. Do we see the improvement? Do we see the savings? Do we see how our body will win? For too long, we've let grocery stores be the architect of our health, right? They've been building a house made out of cards, made out of paper, made out of tape. I want you to take your blueprints back, Wellness Warrior. I want you to choose solid stone. I want you to choose mortar that holds everything together. I want you to build with Purple Heart or mahogany or whatever your favorite wood is. You're building your forever home, and you want it to be as strong and warm and beneficial to you as you paid for. I want to challenge you this week to try to just take one trip to a butcher and see the prices and figure out how can you buy your meals there and possibly improve it. Check out more than one butcher. I'll tell you that I've realized that not everybody, but there are butcher shops that have good prices, and then there's the ones that are going to try to rip you off because they know that everyone thinks they're supposed to be expensive. So go to your butcher shop, and if you don't like the prices there, do a few before you, the same way that when you would buy a house, you would go to multiple houses before you decided which one you're going to buy. Go to multiple butcher shops, look at the prices, and make a decision based on the prices you see. And don't just check beef. Check pork, check lamb, check all the different kinds of meats that they have available to you so you can see where you can save. Because maybe you might not save on beef at one place, but maybe everything else is a good price. And you need to find a place where you can buy your beef. When you go shopping for your groceries this week, skip the middle aisle of the grocery stores. Go out and find yourself a butcher. Look for those cuts that still look like biology, right? The bone is in, the fat is on, they are untrimmed. Look for those cuts. You're going to be happy because your body's going to flourish. Now, once you see the price difference, the next question is it safe to eat this much meat and fat? Like, now that I can afford it, I want to make sure it's okay for me to do. Pat and I have been eating this way for almost 2 years now. It'll be 2 years, like I said, in April 2026. And the impact on our bodies tells a very special story, right? We have more energy. I'm stronger. Our lives have just changed so much. But if you want to see exactly how eating better impacts your life, I think the best thing that you could do is watch this video that I have here about the 80 pounds I lost. And again, just making changes to the amount of carbohydrate coming in, getting some of this garbage out of my life. 80 pounds lost. Watch this video. It's going to help you to see the benefits of what I'm talking about. Click on the link. I'll see you over there.